We are live for episode 5 of the Geeky Pastimes podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Call of Duty Season 3 and what we know about it already and what we're hoping for. You know, there's been a lot of negativity about the game. What sort of things would we like to see that we think could maybe bring it back, sort of get some excitement going? Assuming they're going to start announcing stuff this week, what sort of things would get you excited about? I'm also going to talk about the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves, that I went to go see last night. We're going to talk about the new Saudi Arabian gaming fund, which could potentially be something really interesting, but I'm also going to talk about why we should maybe be a tiny bit cautious about this. And a tiny little teaser that tomorrow, for tomorrow's episode, tomorrow morning, we're going to have our first guest on the podcast. So it won't just be me talking for once. We're also going to have Part Welsh, who's a community manager. He's previously worked with DICE and EA. He's working on Lords of Fallen at the moment. And we're going to be talking about live service games and things like that. But that's tomorrow. So subscribe, set your notifications for tomorrow's. But today, let's talk about Call of Duty Season 3. And also, as ever, everyone who's watching this live, I'm recording it live on youtube.com/Geeky Pastimes. Feel free to chip in. I like going through all of the comments, especially towards the end of the episode. So just let me know your thoughts on all the different things we're talking about. So good morning, Why So Salty? Good morning, Stephen Foster, Fogger, Adam H. I really do appreciate all of these people who are coming back for every episode of this podcast. We record it at 9 a.m. BST every single morning. So, well, every weekday morning. Like, I need to have weekends off. So if you want to see it live, then make sure you turn up then. So we're going to talk about Call of Duty Season 3, and Call of Duty actually released a trailer of sorts for this, talking about the FJX Imperium Sniper. So let's have a look at this.
I'm Phase Dirty. I'm at the Infinity Ward Studios. I was invited here not knowing anything. About to hop into a playtest with some snipers. Wait a second. That looks really familiar. FJX Imperium is amazing. It's like nostalgic mixed with new, powerful. The feel of it, the way it scopes in, feels really good. It's so good. You guys are gonna love it. Be ready.
So this is the new sniper rifle that we're going to see. I'll leave the trailer up a little bit while we talk about this. This is the FJX Imperium. This is the first thing that we've had kind of guaranteed, confirmed is definitely going to be coming in Season 3. We also have a date, like I think we already knew it really because of when the Battle Pass ends, but it's going to be April 12th that we're going to get the next season. So that's not too far away. That's going to be next Wednesday. I think the Battle Pass is due to run out on like Tuesday night or something like that. But next Wednesday is when we're going to have the brand new season. It always does seem like we're getting the season kind of as close, the Wednesday that's closest to the 15th of every month. That's the one well, you get the season reloaded and then you get the proper season alternately. But that's when you were going to be getting them. But anyway, so we've got this sniper rifle. This is the Intervention, which was a sniper rifle that apparently people loved in previous games. It's weird. It's one of those things where I've never been interested in like the esports side of Call of Duty very much. I don't have kind of super fond memories of this gun. It's not something where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like I'm super excited to be able to use this again. It's like, oh, it's another sniper rifle. Like that's kind of how I'm feeling about it at the moment. You know, we already have some quite cool sniper rifles in Modern Warfare 2. You know, the Signal's cool. I like the Victus as well. I think it's quite cool that we have some, you know, we basically have the Signal is this like quite hard hitting, quite high velocity, but very fast firing semi-automatic sniper rifle. Then we have the Victus, which is sort of more of a classic sort of bolt action sniper rifle that again is very hard hitting but fires a little bit slower, but you can move around quite quickly and stuff. Then we've got some sort of quite fast sniper rifles that seem fast to me, like the SPX. It feels like we're covering a lot of bases. I assume this is going to cover the like really heavy sort of powerful sniper rifle thing, and my first impression is that they're putting this in and they're going to make it a one-shot headshot in Warzone, because lots of people are like, hey, we need a one-shot sniper in Warzone. Like, that's the thing that would make it fun. I think they're 100% completely and utterly wrong about that. I think it's a terrible idea to put a one-shot sniper in Warzone, and it's a really like good that they haven't had it. Especially when I saw some people talking, I think Lackey was talking about it yesterday, about how like, oh, if you do have one-shot sniper in Warzone, it needs to be something that's, you know, super difficult to use. So loads of bullet drop, very slow firing speed, maybe slow movement speed, something like that. But I mean, if you look at the little clips that they've put in here,
I'm Phase Dirty.
this is, you know, some quick scoping, some little bunny hopping while shooting.
Into a playtest with some snipers.
I think there's a bit more gameplay of this, isn't there?
FJX Imperium is amazing. It's like nostalgic mixed with new.
Like, if this is a one-shot sniper and people, well, I'm just going to mute it so I can talk over it. And people are doing stuff like this. Well, I need to rewind further. Like, jumping, spinning around, hip firing, and getting a headshot. That's kind of a worry to me. Like, that's something that I think will be kind of terrible. You know, the big thing that I've always had a problem with the one-shot snipers, and it hasn't changed at all, is that yes, it's kind of fun and satisfying to get a kill in Warzone with, you know, with a sniper. You get that one shot on someone's head, and it's like really good. But in a game like Warzone or in DMZ, getting one shot by a sniper rifle is never fun, because it's not something that you can avoid. It's not something that you can get away from. It's like literally you can be playing a game of Warzone for like 20 minutes and then someone can just like happen to see you through a window or happen to like get a sort of position above you somewhere, and they can take you out of the game without you being able to react, without you being able to do anything about it. And every time I've brought this up in the past, I've always had the argument come back. It's like, well, that's because you're a bad player. Like, you need to make sure that you're like always in cover. You need to make sure you're not exposed to stuff like that. And that's just nonsense. At any given time in Warzone, unless you're hiding in one of the bathrooms or one of the dead end corridors or in, you know, the tunnels underground or something like that, there's always going to be the potential for someone to kill you. Are you saying like, oh, in Warzone, you should never go outside? Because as soon as you're outside, you cannot cover the angles. And I don't see people constantly using smoke grenades every time they go anywhere outside. Like this thing, if it's a one-shot headshot, you'll be able to shoot people out of vehicles. You'll be able to shoot anyone who ever goes on a rooftop, anyone who ever goes near a window. There's absolutely no way you can prevent it. So it's always just introducing that idea in the game that like, oh yeah, you could be playing for a long while and then you could die from something that's absolutely not your fault and you have no chance to react to it. I thought the whole point of having like two-shot sniper rifles was that even if with something like a signal you don't get very long, you at least get a second to react. You at least get a second to drop into cover, to throw a smoke, to like evade somehow. You've got a chance, or to shoot back. You've got a chance to do something, so snipers aren't all powerful. And you know, people, if you need like kind of a non-frustrating way to get an idea of what the problem is, go play Invasion. Like, go play Invasion and just move up the map. You will get sniped by people at the back of the map. It'll be a one-shot sniper. You'll die. Like, you will just get taken out and you will die. And there's very little you can do about those snipers that are really good, other than also getting a sniper rifle and taking them out. Luckily in Invasion, you respawn, so it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't really care that you die like that. But in a game like Warzone, or, you know, even worse, DMZ, where you've got a chance of losing everything. Warzone, you know, you can lose 20 minutes of your time. In something like or, you know, a really good streak or whatever, in DMZ, you could lose so much more. Imagine people who are going for nuke contracts and stuff like that, and then it's like, oh, near the end, they just get sniped and they're dead. Just like, pew, dead. Nothing you can do. I really think like one-shot snipers are a terrible idea. And I get that, like, you know, there's this argument again that people have that, oh, you know, content creators love it and they need it for content because, you know, then they can make these cool sniping compilations. And it's like, A, they can already do that because lots of the time, you know, I've sniped loads of people in Warzone 2 and killed them in one shot because they didn't have full plates. It still does happen. You can still make that kind of content stuff. But the games, you know, where like Broken would often get like dozens of, you know, a dozen kills in a game, just like shooting people out of the air and stuff like that. Yeah, that might not happen anymore. But then think of that, like whenever he did that, that's like a dozen people whose games were ruined by just getting shot with something that wasn't their fault at all. I just think like as the first thing they're announcing, this seems very indicative to me of kind of the thing that I was talking about in that video I did of like what's going wrong with Call of Duty, of listening to content creators, listening to the kind of online social media bubble where lots and lots of people blindly follow content creators without really thinking about the kind of impact of the changes they're suggesting. And it makes the game worse. And I think that's a really bad idea. I think, as with everything with Warzone 2, they should have stuck to their guns. They had like a vision for less loadouts, harder to get a gun with all of the attachments you want, no one-shot snipers, AI on the maps, 2v2 gulag. All of these things were kind of their vision for how it should be. Money being harder to find, you know, actually having to go to places with cash registers if you want money, because that's like where cash should be. All of those things were like, I would see as positive changes. They were interesting changes. They changed up the game. And one by one, oh, the backpack system. One by one, they've taken all of them out because content creators have been like, but I can't make the videos I used to be able to make. And they, you know, justify their arguments with making up ridiculous things to try and expect, you know, they're like, oh, well, it just like serves campers or it just serves casuals. And then people who are following them are like, well, I don't want to be a casual. So yeah, I'm with them. I'm with the hardcore Call of Duty players. I want there to be one-shot snipers and 1v1 gulag and no backpacks and no AI on the map and all of this sort of stuff. And it's just kind of, I genuinely think this is going to be another change that makes it bad. I never enjoyed in Warzone 1 getting shot by the Kar 98. Like, I never enjoyed people being able to, like, very quickly just, like, shoot you in the head, get a lucky hit, or get a very skillful hit, and take you out of the game in one shot. I never thought that was fun. It was, like, a little bit better with the HDR and the AX50, where it was, like, super, super slow. You know, where you had, like, it was quite a difficult thing for someone to get a one-shot headshot, and lugging around the HDR or the AX50 was, like, a little bit more of a encumbrance, you know, more of an issue. I think that's probably a bit better, but I still prefer it the way it is now in the game, where if you want to use a sniper rifle in Warzone 2, you can still have a lot of fun, because the Signal 50 can still take people out really quickly because of how fast it fires. The Victus, I still think, is a really, really good gun. You know, if you've got a couple of people team shooting and stuff like that, you can do some amazing things. But, you know, this sort of thing, where it's like, whoop, jumping around, hip firing, shooting someone in the head and killing them, in multiplayer, don't care about it. Whatever. Put sniper rifles that are one-shot kills in multiplayer, because you respawn so fast it doesn't matter. But in Warzone or DMZ, like, no, please no. I'm interested to see what chat thinks. Let's talk a little bit about what chat thinks about that, because I realise, again, you know, as per usual, I might not be part of the grand news thing. I feel like with Call of Duty stuff, because everyone wants to, you know, show off how amazing they are at Call of Duty, no one wants to talk about the effects of being shot by a one-shot sniper rifle. Because then it's like, oh, you're bad, you get shot by a sniper rifle, which is ridiculous. Why So Salty said he's looking forward to Season 3, but curious to see what the faction missions are going to become. If they aren't resetting, can we carry on with progression? Will they nerf a couple, like, reduced 9 dog tags? We'll talk about that. I think, we'll talk about it. It's a complicated thing. Won't help if it don't, Stephen Foster said, won't help if it don't one-shot in Warzone. All the big streamers leaving or playing Caldera. But that's fine, let them. Like, I don't understand this idea of, like, they ought to be pandering to try and keep the big streamers. If the big streamers are like, oh, well, I can't play this game because it's not easy for me to snipe and get headshots, and it's not easy for me to get high kill games and stuff like that, then they can clear off and make way for new big streamers. If anything, that's quite healthy, rather than it just being, like, Courage JD, Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman, everyone doing stuff. They will be successful in other games, and their audiences will follow them and watch other games, stuff like that. But there'll also be a lot of people watching Call of Duty, and the people who do adapt and come up with new ways to be good in Warzone 2, they'll get new audiences, and that's fine. You know, obviously, for people like me, for creators, that's a good thing if there's a bit of churn, if some new creators show up who are able to do things, you know, able to play a new game and find new ways to be exciting and make content, rather than just being like, I can't make the content I've been making for years, so please put it back so I can do that. Yeah, I just think that's bad. I think they should never, ever tune the game around creators, like, in terms of the gameplay. I really don't think that should happen. I think, like, they can tune tools around creators, so, like, having a streamer mode and having, like, ranked play that's obviously really good for streaming and stuff like that. Stuff like that, of course, like, that's a good thing. Having, like, you know, private game lobbies that you can actually use with codes and stuff like that. All of that stuff, wonderful. But tuning gameplay around what, like, you know, 40 famous Call of Duty streamers would like, I just think it's a terrible idea, because It's not like people are going to stop streaming Call of Duty. It's just that there'll be different people streaming Call of Duty. And that's fine. And to be honest, it's hyperbole when Stephen was saying that all the big streamers are leaving or playing Caldera. You'll see people this week playing a little bit of Caldera. They'll be back on Warzone. Like when they see that the viewing figures aren't there for Caldera, they'll just come back to Warzone. They'll just come back to Warzone too. I'm fairly confident. Fogger said, Sniper is my least used class in most online games. This view is just a yawn. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that like the intervention is kind of, to me, it's either it's going to be a one-shot sniper, in which case it's going to make a bit of the game a bit worse because you're going to get killed with something that you can't possibly do anything about, that you can't counter. That sucks. Or it's not going to be a one-shot sniper, in which case, how's it going to be different from the Signal? Like, or the Victus? Like, what's going to be the thing that separates it from those guns in Warzone? And, in multiplayer, surely the Signal and the Victus and stuff like that are already one-shot kills, aren't they? I mean, I know a load of the marksman rifles are one-shot kills, so it's like, headshots at least. So, like, what's going to be different about this compared to those other guns? Is it just that it's like a model and a sound that has nostalgia? Because if so, like, I don't care about that. Most people want it back for the sound, but they've changed it. Oh, have they changed the sound? Like I said, I don't have any nostalgia for this gun. As someone that has played every Call of Duty game quite a lot, more than most people, I would say, I don't have any kind of, like, I'm not like, wow, the intervention's coming back. Oh, don't care. The main thing, so we'll talk about plunder in a bit. Wondering what the downsides would be to using the sniper. Yeah, exactly. They have something, so... Stephen Foster did say something else. I want to read his reply. There we go. I disagree. I'm a casual... This is Stephen Foster again. I disagree. I'm a casual player and I miss the one-shot snipers. It just seems that the fun's gone from Warzone for a lot of people. Or they wouldn't be leaving for other games, etc. I mean, this is the same argument that we've seen a lot of times from that community. I don't want to retread it too much because we talked about it in that episode where I talked about what went wrong for Call of Duty. But we saw people saying that people were leaving Warzone 2 because of the 2v2 gulag. And we saw people saying they were leaving Warzone 2 because of the backpacks. And people were leaving Warzone 2 because of the AI on the map. And people were leaving Warzone 2 because of the one-shot sniper. And people were leaving Warzone 2 because of no side cancelling. And people were leaving Warzone 2 because of whatever. It's always been like there's an issue. And they say, like, well, this is causing people to leave Warzone 2. People aren't playing because of this. And then, like, they changed the issue. So, they made it so loadouts are everywhere. They made it so the backpack loot doesn't happen. They put 1v1 gulag back in. All of these different things. And it's like, then it always just shifts to something else. There's always another reason why people are leaving Warzone 2. And it's like, I genuinely think the reality for a lot of people is that people are leaving Warzone 2 because they're kind of burnt out on Warzone. The Warzone hasn't really changed that much and they've played a huge amount about it. There's not a huge number of people playing, as far as I know, there's not a huge number of people playing Warzone Caldera. Like, I don't think I've seen that many people. I don't know, Twitch doesn't separate them, does it? Like Warzone Caldera and Warzone 2. I know it has the logo for Warzone 2, but if I go on to the Warzone 2 thing, let's just run it. So this is the Warzone 2, this is the Warzone category on Twitch. And it's like, that's a Sheikah, that's a Sheikah, that's Al Mazrah, that's Al Mazrah, that's a Sheikah. That could be Warzone? I can't actually tell what that is. I don't know, their settings are very low. I think that could be Caldera, maybe. But you get the point, like, that's a Sheikah, that's Al Mazrah. It's like, a lot of people are still very much playing the new game. And then there's the odd person like Rallied's there streaming to 231 people. He's playing Caldera. Like there definitely are a few people playing Caldera. I think most people would probably put it in the description. So if I search for Caldera, there we go. 38 viewers, 29 viewers, 18 viewers, 11 viewers. It's like something that people are doing, but like it's a small number of people. And if people were really leaving because they wanted everything to be like Caldera was, like Warzone 1 was, I think maybe that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, so I honestly don't think that lots of people are leaving the game. I think genuinely lots of people might have thought the fun is going from Warzone, but I think a lot of that is just people are getting burnt out on Warzone, people are getting tired of Warzone, there's nothing really to work towards in Warzone for a lot of people. So like a lot of the big streamers, they got a nuke, and now they're kind of like, I don't know what else to do. Um, they don't really have something else to go for other than getting lots of wins and stuff like that, which they've already been doing for 2 years. You know, something like Counter-Strike, you've got the whole getting camos and stuff like that, and there's lots of tournaments, lots of competitions all the time. Something like Apex, you've got the ranking system, which has helped them a lot to keep people like pushing on it and going for it. I don't think there isn't the something to chase in Warzone. There isn't something for people to sort of mark their progression. It's just they keep playing the same game day in, day out, and they're getting bored of it. And I think they blame it on a lot of other things rather than just being like, oh yeah, I'm kind of burnt out on this game. I know, like, definitely I felt burnt out on it. I used to play it every single morning. I used to play Battle Royale every evening with all my friends. And then I started, when Warzone 2 came out, I played a lot of DMZ, like every single morning. We were going through the missions, stuff like that. And now I've kind of stopped doing that because I kind of just burnt out on it. And I've got to the point where now I play maybe like once or twice a week. And when I do play it, I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm having a really good time. And I think that's a common sign of burnout. It's like when I do play it, I enjoy it, but I just don't feel the urge to play it every day anymore. There's also the other problems that I know Lackey was talking about, Tactical Brit was talking about, I made a video about, of the network problems, that there's more lag than there has been for a while. There's more hackers in the game than there has been for a while. There hasn't been any super interesting content for a little while. It's kind of, the game isn't in the kind of freshest state right now. Hopefully Season 3 will do something to fix that. But, you know, we'll see. So let's talk a little bit more about what other things are coming to Season 3, like, what else are we expecting? There's one little note of it in this video, and that is the Lighthouse map. So if I just put that up there. So we've got the Paleo's Lighthouse is a new 6v6 map. I've got mixed feelings about this. Obviously, we're only seeing a tiny bit of it. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of this today or tomorrow. But we are getting a new 6v6 map. As far as I know, this is a brand new map. Like, this isn't a remake or anything like that. I think that's a good thing. We had Himmelmat Expo, which I think has generally been fairly well received, hasn't it? Like, people quite like it. And then this is another new map. That's really good. Little bit not concerning and not upsetting, those are wrong words, bit disappointing that they're very much like, hey, there is a new map coming in Season 3. And it's like, oh, there's a new map coming. There's one new map coming. I think that's kind of disappointing. I wouldn't be surprised if we also saw some, like, you know, maybe a new Ground War map, maybe a new Invasion map, taking bits of the Warzone map. Possibly, but the fact that we're getting one 6v6 map is kind of a little bit disappointing. You don't really get like much of a view of it, I don't think, in this. And we'll just go through, watch this stupid snipe again. So yeah, there we go. So we don't get much of a view of it here. It's a little bit dark, which is kind of cool, but it's doing that Call of Duty darkness thing where it's not actually dark. It's like just light blue for some reason. The way they do darkness is like, we don't want you to not be able to see in corners, so we're just going to make it so, you know, because otherwise people will hide in corners and stuff and you'll have the problem like you had with the rose skin. So we're going to say it's dark, but it's actually basically like England in a February morning. It's just kind of overcast. But yeah, it's a lighthouse. I don't know what else we can tell about it. It's raining. There's a rain effect, which is kind of cool. It seems a little bit weird that for the sake of this trailer, they've obviously got all of the settings turned down super low. I guess it's because this FaZe person was like, that's the way they play with everything turned down to low. But it's like, you know, you can see the textures and everything are super ugly. But I'm guessing that's just his settings. But it's cool. We do have like a lot of rain, and then you've got like a slightly more like open area with some more natural kind of landscape, which that's something I don't think we've seen much of in Modern Warfare 2. Like everything in Modern Warfare 2, the 6v6 maps, other than like the area around that one that's like the biker bar. I don't know what the maps are called. But you know, there's that one where there's like the big building in the middle and then there's some natural area around it. We've got that one. But I think most of the maps are quite like man-made, aren't they? So having some like natural terrain and stuff like that might be kind of interesting, especially with the rain and the darkness. I do find it funny how like all of these maps, and I'm sure this is a thing in every first-person shooter game ever, it's just like, that bungalow looks like it's just a reused asset, and so is that tower up there. Like, actually, the tower's got a little walkway around it. Maybe it's not. But, like, the idea, they're just buildings that they're plonking down. It's like, hey, this is another building we're going to put down. One thing that I would say that not to get anyone's hopes up, and I don't think this is true, but just imagine, what if this was part of a new map? What if this was like part of a new Warzone map? And it's like we're getting a view of it, and we have like this dark map, and we had somewhere where it's like there's a storm, it's raining, and you have like a completely different experience for like Warzone and DMZ. That would be amazing. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that's happening, but that would be cool. Like it'd be cool if we had somewhere that was like perpetually like a more sort of nighttime map. I think that'd be very fun. But anyway, that's kind of all of the information we got about Season 3 officially. So we've got the new 6v6 map and we've got the new intervention. So what I really wanted to talk about, and we've taken 27 minutes to get here, is what other stuff do you want? What other stuff are you hoping for? So in chat, we'll go talk about chat in a second. So in chat, just leave your messages about what sort of things you would like. And you can carry on the one-shot sniper conversation because that's super interesting. But what sort of things are you hoping for? So we had a creator call during season 2, at the beginning of season 2, where they talked to some of us about it. I was lucky enough to get invited to that. I haven't had one for season 3. I haven't been invited to anything like that. But we had a call and they talked about some of the stuff that we're going to be getting. And in that, they mentioned some stuff about season 3. So I think, and we weren't allowed to record it or anything like that, and I should have made more notes. I think they said in that we were getting gunfight in season 3. So I think that's one of the things that was definitely coming. I think gunfight and plunder were the two things that they said were coming in season 3. Now that doesn't mean they're coming next week. That doesn't mean they're coming next Wednesday. It could be that they're like, season 3 reloaded or anything like that. But if we're getting gunfight, that would be quite a big deal because they were saying that, there's maps made specifically for gunfight. So that would be super cool if like on top of this 6v6 map, we've also got like, I don't know, I would say for them to launch gunfight, they need like at least 4 maps probably. The more the better, but if they had like at least 4 gunfight maps, that would be awesome. Gunfight I absolutely love. I really hope they kick it off with doing the tournament structure that they used in Modern Warfare 2019 and Black Ops Cold War. I thought that was a lot of fun where like you went up against 8 teams and you were you'd go through rounds and you get different rewards based on which round you got to, and if you won the whole thing, then you'd get a blueprint. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed doing that with Name Gear. So yeah, definitely up for gunfight. I hope they haven't messed with it too much. I quite liked it where every 2 rounds everyone has the same weapon and it changes up every 2 rounds. I thought that was really cool, and you can have some interesting weapons, some interesting builds and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. Also, it's worth remembering Modern Warfare 2019 had Easter eggs on the gunfight maps. They had them on some of the starter ones and then all of the DLC ones, I think. So it'd be really cool if they carried that on and still had some fun little Easter eggs and stuff like that on the maps. But yeah, so I'm excited about gunfight. If they have gunfight in there, that's definitely a thing that will bring me back into playing multiplayer a little bit more, bring me back into streaming multiplayer a little bit more. What would be amazing, and I don't believe this will happen, but this is my wish for the gunfight side, is that they have something like the multiplayer rank system just for gunfight. So like a gunfight ranking system. So you can go up ranks, you get rewards for each rank, maybe rather than having the tournaments, have this instead. Have basically the entire rank system for multiplayer, but just for gunfight. I think that would be absolutely amazing. That would get me to play loads of that, so that would be super exciting. The other thing is plunder. As far as I know, plunder's coming. Plunder, I would imagine, if I was going to guess, I would say we'd get gunfight at the beginning of season 3, and then plunder in season 3 reloaded. Plunder, I think, will be very much like just an add-on to Warzone. So it'll just be an extra playlist in Warzone. I don't think it'll have like different things. It'll be like just quads or just trios or something like that rotating. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it was just on one map, like just on Al Mazrah or something like that, or just on Ashika. And yeah, plunder, I mean, I know lots of people really, really enjoy it. I wouldn't expect to see it change really in any substantial way. It'll just be like it was in Warzone 1. But it's always been a nice way for people to level up weapons, to unlock weapons, do some of those challenges and things like that. And it's kind of a nice chilled way to look around the map. Super useful if there's Easter eggs for us to look at. I really like being able to use plunder in that because obviously you keep on respawning until the end of the game and you don't have to worry about the gas. That would be cool. There are a couple of things I think they could do that would be interesting with plunder. The big one is put it on Building 21. Like, people who don't play DMZ haven't played Building 21. They don't know it. Imagine if you had something like Building 21, all of the places where you store cash are essentially the elevators, and like you have to wait for the elevator to be called and it sends an alarm so everyone else knows you're doing it, and that's how you get cash out of the building. I think that would be really cool. So you'd be like raiding all of the offices and stuff like that, raiding all of the different like special rooms in there. Maybe even have AI in there. Like maybe even have plunder with AI. And so you're kind of doing that, but you will keep respawning, but obviously you lose the cash if you die and stuff like that. I think that'd be cool. Plunder in Building 21 would be a really cool way to bring Building 21 over to the kind of Warzone crowd. I think that would be a lot of fun, and that'd be something different. But I don't expect it. I think we'll just get normal plunder on Al Mazrah. That's probably what's most likely. Then in terms of other things, what am I hoping for from this? So like I said, gunfight plunder, that's pretty good. I know people have said, based on the creators call, which before I say the next bit, let me remind you, I was in the creators call. I heard the exact same thing as all of these other people did. People have said Warzone Ranked will come in Season 3. Now, that is not what they said at the creators call. In the creators call, they said Plunder and Gunfight are going to be coming Season 3, and then in future seasons, we've got Warzone Ranked, and they had like an image on the screen of Warzone Ranked, just a logo or something. That's what they said. That's the information they gave us. I think the implication was there, to me at least, it was pretty clear that Warzone Ranked wasn't a Season 3 thing, that it was, you know, Season 4 or Season 5. And it was more just saying, like, yes, we haven't forgotten about it. It's more acknowledging that it exists, because otherwise people keep on asking about it. And it almost seemed like an announcement it wasn't coming in Season 3. So I wasn't expecting Warzone Ranked to come out this season. I was expecting it to come out in the June update, which will be Season 4. Now, that being said, it's hard to deny that Warzone is in a fairly bad state right now in terms of there is loads of negativity about it online. There definitely are less players going. Like when, you know, you look at Steam charts, which is obviously the worst way to judge how many people are playing Warzone, but also the only way we have to judge how many people are playing Warzone. It's like the only fact we have. It's very low compared to what it has been for the rest of the time Call of Duty Warzone 2 has been out. It's like insanely low compared to that. So right now on Modern Warfare 2, there's 47,000 people playing, which, you know, has gone down. Sorry, it's down to 45,481, which I think is the lowest it's ever been. Oh no, it's been a little bit lower than this on March 30th. So last week it was a little bit lower than this. But it's been getting down to these kind of lows. Oh, it's actually been lower even that the week before. But yeah, it's been getting down to these dips of like 45,000 people on Steam. Now, obviously, that's probably the smallest platform. There's probably more people playing on Battle.net, definitely more people playing it on Xbox, playing it on PlayStation. That's something that's definitely happening. But it is kind of a sign that the population's probably dropping off, and it tallies up with what a lot of people are saying. What I've seen anecdotally, that like my friends don't really play it very much anymore. I don't play it very much anymore. Lots of creators I know don't play it as much anymore. It's definitely dropping off. I can imagine that the reason they've gone kind of radio silent for the last month or so, you know, they've barely posted anything, they've barely said anything, they haven't done a blog post saying, hey, we know it's in a bad state, we're doing this, this, and this. They haven't done anything like that. I can imagine that the reason they've done that is that they've gone into like a ridiculous crunch mode to try and get Warzone Ranked ready for Season 3. Because it would turn it around. If Warzone Ranked comes out next week, a week on Wednesday, I can guarantee nearly all of those creators that have been saying like, oh, I just don't like the gameplay of Warzone 2, like it's a trash game, I'm going back to these other games, stuff like that, will come back and play Warzone 2. Because Ranked is like incentive to play. It's like a progression thing. It gives you a narrative. It gives you something to base your streams around. It's something that's amazing for content. It doesn't have to change any of the gameplay at all. If people are playing Ranked, it's going to bring so many people back to the game. And, you know, it would work on me as well. Like, I would 100% get involved in Ranked. I'd like to get ranked in the game. I'd like to find out, you know, am I in silver? Am I in gold? I'm not going to be going for top 250. But, like, I'd like it if I could get to the gold division. That'd be cool. Yeah, stuff like that, I think, would be a big deal. And I think they know that. It's an easy thing to market. It's an easy thing to, like, win over a huge number of people. The difficult part is it's probably a very difficult thing to do. It's probably difficult, not just in terms of the design, which is difficult in itself. You know, do you just give people lots of points for winning, or do people just get points for being in the top 10? Do you give people points for kills? Like, otherwise people are just going to be hiding in buildings to increase their rank. Do you have it as like a completely separate mode, or do you have it as the main mode? You know, when you have, if you think already, in Warzone, there's like the playlists have already got to the point where they can't have solos, duos, trios, and quads in Battle Royale. They have solos, duos at the moment, I think. Then trios, mini Royale, and then quads was the totally normal Battle Royale. So that sounds like they don't have the population in every region to be able to have all of the different playlists up. If they then separate it between a sort of normal playlist and then a ranked playlist, is it just going to be ranked solos or just ranked quads or just ranked trios, stuff like that? Are you going to have different rankings for whether you're in quads, duos, trios, solos, and stuff like that? You know, is there going to be a separate ranking system for each one? There's so many questions about it. Is there going to be ranked on Ashika, or is it just going to be Al Mazrah? Like, there's tons of design questions. And then I imagine the engineering side of it will probably be super difficult too. Like, they've got to build all of these systems in a way where it's fair and it, you know, takes into account things like, you know, stuff crashing, stuff going wrong, cheaters, all of that sort of stuff. It's probably a super, super complicated thing to implement. But if they get it right, it's going to be amazing. So I think there's a possibility we're going to get Warzone ranked next week. I definitely don't think it's like a given that it's going to happen, but that would be like probably the most exciting thing they could add next week. In terms of like everything else, like guns and operators and stuff, I honestly don't care. Like, I think there's too many guns in the game as it is. There's not like a niche where I'm like, oh, I'd really like it if there was a gun that did this. I don't know if anyone in chat has any ideas, but I can't think of any kind of particular area of the guns where it's like there's something significant missing at all. I'd like it if they added a throwing axe so we could have sticks and stones again, I guess. That would be fun. But I mean, that would just be a throwing knife skin probably, although maybe, you know, it looks a little bit different and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't think of anything else. And in terms of operators, like, I don't care what they do with the operators. Like, it would be fun if they did some more licensed stuff. Like, that's always a good time. But, you know, I've quite enjoyed the Shredder thing. It wasn't amazing. It was fine. I don't care if there's like, oh, there's a new Gaz skin, or there's a new Price skin, or a new Soap skin, or a new Alex skin, or whatever. I don't really care about the raid. I haven't thought the raids were that amazing. They're very sort of simple compared to what I was sort of hoping for. And they're not something that I want to play again. I haven't even got all the rewards from them yet. I haven't done the second raid on Veteran. I haven't tried it. Just because, like, I haven't found it that interesting to do, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not that excited about any of the other stuff, really. Good multiplayer modes, I'd like some more party modes. I'd like it if they added in stuff that's fun with that. Did they add Infected? I think they did, didn't they? I haven't actually played it. I haven't looked to see if they've added Infected. Maybe I'll have a go at that later if they have put it in. But yeah, I'd like, you know, sticks and stones and stuff like that to get added. Anyway, let's have a quick look through chat. So if you've got any ideas in chat, please let me know. And I'll just go back into some of the things that people have been saying. I'm going all the way back up to what people were talking about a long while. Fogger said, I was also waiting for Plunder, not so sure anymore because DMZ's growing on me. Oh, DMZ, we haven't talked about DMZ. What I'm hoping for DMZ is just a new faction. Someone was saying earlier, with the mission reset, will they make some missions easier? I get the impression they can't. I think that's why they had the mission reset. So when they did the mission reset, most of the missions, I think, were the same as they were before. At least, like, they were the same in spirit, but they changed a couple of details. But they had to do, like, an entire reset on it. That gives me the impression that they can't tweak a mission requirements without completely resetting everything. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that was just like that was the impression I got from it. So maybe they won't change any of those things. I think at best in DMZ we'll get a new faction, and that would be, you know, that would be exciting to me, especially if there was a new faction that was, you know, we talked about this before, designed all around vehicles, for example. You know, it's like loads of challenges to do with vehicles, or getting for like a courier faction. It was all about getting from one place to another place as fast as possible in the game, stuff like that. I think stuff like that would be quite a lot of fun, but I don't really expect us to get anything else for DMZ. I'm not expecting us to get a lot of stuff. You know, we had Building 21, we had Ashika Island, we had the whole faction reset last season. I don't think they're going to keep up that kind of content every season. Which, you know, to be fair, isn't really a problem for anyone except for us crazy people that burnt through all of the factions super quickly. You know, there's not many people that have finished Tier 5 already. I think most normal people are still chugging away. Like, whenever we join randoms, loads of them are still on, like, Tier 1 at this point. So, yeah, I don't think they need to make a lot of more content for it or anything like that. So people are talking about why so salty said they have to make solo. Was it talking? I don't know if you're talking about DMZ. I don't think they're going to do that either. I think DMZ would need a fairly significant overhaul to make solo make sense. You'd need to get rid of loads of the AI. You need to find ways so people don't just die in a stupid way and lose everything because they don't have a team. I do agree that they should get rid of teams over 4 people. I think having a 4th person is fine, but having 6 people on a squad in DMZ is a bit ridiculous. And they can clear out an entire map when they're in 6. Not always. Like, we have killed teams of 6 before, but just because people get really overly cocky about it when they're doing it. But in general, I think that's a really bad thing. In Building 21, you're limited to 4 people on a team. I feel like they could just do that. That would maybe be a good idea. Less aggro range on PvE and slightly smaller tier 3 spawn hordes. I've said loads of times, I don't think they should make the bots any easier. I think if they make the bots too easy, it will like ruin DMZ. I think like it'd be interesting if they had any way of making the AI a little bit better so stealth was more of an option. I quite like it in Ashika Island where there's like the cameras and stuff in the castle area. I think it would be interesting if there was a bit more like that where you could sneak through an area by taking out cameras and then like taking out guards silently, and like there was more options for stealth. Because at the moment you can kind of do that. You can take out enemies stealthily, but just because of the way they're positioned and the way reinforcements come in all the time, I think then it makes it so that is like less useful. But it'd be cool if you took out an area silently. That meant there were no reinforcements coming. Like, if you could take out a whole area, then you could do the safes and stuff like that, and no reinforcements would come. That would be cool. Like, that would be a cool thing. But I think there's probably lots of limits about the AI and what they can actually do on that. Why So Salty also said one-shot snipers are a terrible idea. Jumping spinfire hipshot was stupid. Hipfire period shouldn't be a one-shot. It's hipfire, so less accurate. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the idea that it should be luck. That, maybe it can happen, but it's always going to be annoying if it happens to you. Campers should be pinged if they haven't moved for more than 2 minutes from a zone. Whole map ping. Campers are boring for a game. I disagree. I think camping is like a fine way to play. I find it boring to camp, but I find dealing with campers some of the more interesting things that happens in Warzone and DMZ. Like especially when you're playing a team game, so you're not playing solos. When you know someone's camping in like a window or someone's camping in a specific building, trying to work out how you're going to deal with that, I think is quite interesting, like quite engaging. And obviously they've given you tools like, can you use drill charges? Do they have a trophy system? Can you get somewhere where you're high up so you can look into the building or something like that? Do you have a weapon that can shoot through walls? Do you have snapshots or something that will let you see them? There's like lots of different things you can do to help deal with the campers, and then like preparing to all rush in. And now the fire shotgun's gone, which was something that campers could use to absolutely decimate you. Often you can take out a camper. Like often there's a way to do it. I think campers are a fine thing. Like they've led to a lot more of the interesting situations that I've had rather than just people, rushing in and like attacking you with an SMG, where that fight always kind of goes the same. Just whoever's better at movement and aiming wins. I like the thoughtfulness behind taking on a camper. I think that's cool. Fogger said, wasn't that why they changed Ghost to only working when you're on the move? Yeah, that was a good change. I hope they put that back. Biggest mistake Activision... Contest Nerd said, biggest mistake Activision did was catering to content creators. Even if they do everything the influencers want, that's not stopping these people to still quit. Then we're left with what? Yeah, I mean, I agree, Contest Nerd. So I think I've been fairly outspoken about that I genuinely think listening to content creators and their communities, the sort of online echo box of Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that, I think that's ruined the game to a fairly large extent. We've got lots of changes that have made the game worse. Those people are still complaining. They're still not happy. They're still keeping on with that rhetoric of, oh, Activision don't listen to us, ignoring all of the changes that have been made because of stuff that they've talked about. They ignore all of that and then keep on with this thing of like trying to paint Activision as this huge evil company and the developers as being incompetent and not listening and all of that sort of stuff. And it's like they can't see that a lot of the changes they've made have made the game worse. 1v1 Gulag, I haven't heard anyone being like, oh, I had this really cool Gulag fight. It's always boring. It's always the same thing. The backpack loot, now we have loot spreading out all over the floor and it's super hard to pick anything up. We have like the fact that loadouts are everywhere. Now the meta is ruining the game every time, some crazy thing happens in the meta and everyone can get their primary weapon super fast. Everyone can get their perks super fast. It's just it's super annoying to me. But anyway, Get the whiny millionaires out. Yeah, get rid of them. Then make me a millionaire. That'd be good. If anyone wants to become a member, it's only $1.99 a month for the lowest level, but you do get like all the badges and emotes and everything like that for that. So please become a member and support the channel. Helps me out a bunch. Just reading a bit more. Benchmark Boy said at this point they're making panic changes to try and stop the amount of players they're losing. Yeah, I think like that's been a thing since COD Next. Like since COD Next, they've been doing this thing where in my head, and I talked about this before, my image is my idea is that Activision are kind of saying, hey, look at this, like the online sentiment about Call of Duty is really negative because, you know, look at these big accounts, you know, Charlie Intel, Modern Warzone, Courage JD, Tim the Tatman. They're saying negative things about Call of Duty. You need to do some of the things they're saying. And like the game designers are like, but that isn't how we designed the game. That's going to ruin it. And they're like, yeah, but it'll make them happy. And so they've chased that. They've chased trying to make these changes constantly. And I think they've made the game worse and worse and worse and worse, rather than sticking to like their original design, which could have been good. We never got to play it. Literally, this is the thing that annoys me the most about all of this. Literally nobody got to play the game they had designed that they talked about at COD Next. The people at COD Next didn't get to engage with the loadout system at all. All their accounts were level 1. They didn't have anything unlocked. They didn't have the creator class unlocked. So that meant that like they couldn't buy guns, they couldn't buy attachments, they had no chance to engage with that system whatsoever. They just decided for us that it was really bad and they hated it and they never wanted to see that or anything like that. So the game that I could see it as was like this idea of them being able to make, you know, meta guns super expensive, make meta attachments super expensive, all of that sort of stuff. So it would be very rare and it'd be quite an accomplishment if you managed to get that stuff. We never got to play that game, ever. They already made changes based on creative feedback from COD Next, a lot of those people who were whining a lot at COD Next. And then by the time like we got to play Warzone 2, they'd already kind of half changed a lot of the system, stuff like that, in a couple of months. Bear in mind, this was a game they'd been working on for 2 years. And then in a couple of months or a month or something, they changed loads of the different systems. So obviously it kind of wasn't perfect. It wasn't like tuned properly. And then since then, they've constantly been changing stuff without ever having the time to like tune it to make it better. Which they've just been changing it based on community feedback, which sucks. Anyway, cheaters are still a massive problem. Should be a console-only crossplay option. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like to me at least, I haven't seen many cheaters. I've seen one cheater in DMZ, and obviously I've played more DMZ than I would say most people in the world have. And you know, we do very well in DMZ, so I don't think it's that like we're getting put in bot lobbies or something like that. But in Warzone, I've heard that it's a lot worse than it used to be. I still haven't seen loads of it, but I don't play anywhere near as much as I used to. The console-only crossplay thing, I think the fear is that it would make matchmaking on PC too difficult. There's not enough people playing on PC because PC, you know, is the least popular platform. I think like that's the problem for them, is that like they want to encourage people to play on PC, but if you're on PC and every game you're with cheaters because there's not enough people to matchmake with, and you have bad connections and you have long matchmaking times and the skill-based matchmaking can't work, so you're always against people who are much better than you or much worse than you. I think that's probably why they don't do it. But yeah, I can understand why people who just play on console would want that for sure. But it's I can also understand why they're not doing it. Why So Salty said people have to have a go at other games. It's logical, and I bet people have put 100 hours to max out tiers and have nothing left to do. The numbers come back up with season 3 of new content. Yeah, 100%. Like people are just burning out on the game because there's nothing to do in it anymore. Like once people have done nukes and stuff like that, now it's just like they're just how many wins can you get, I guess. And there's some people who can just win loads of games, you know, in a row because that's how they got nukes in the first place. So I just don't think there's something super exciting to chase after anymore. Which ranked will help with that, I think. Why So Salty said cheating isn't specific to PCs. Plenty of cheats on console. I didn't know that. I didn't know that can you do any cheats on console? I know people have like the Cronus controller things, and that's like a cheat. But I don't really know of anything else that's on the console. Lots of also joining, you know, a few hundred new players that have jumped from Division 2 over. Why? What happened to Division 2? Did something go wrong with Division 2? I don't know about that. Problem with Warzone. Morning, Mad Jock. Benchmark Boy said, problem with Warzone 2 is the fundamental game just isn't fun to play. Warzone 1 had its problems, but as bad as it was fun to play. I disagree with that. I don't think I think that's a very subjective thing. Maybe it's not as fun to you. To me at least, Warzone 2 is very similar to Warzone 1, especially the way it is now. I think it was, at launch, it was more fun and interesting than Warzone 1 was. I was very bored of Warzone 1, but I think now they've made it so much more similar to Warzone 1. If you were bored of Warzone 1, you're probably going to be bored of Warzone 2. I've seen, and it's, again, it's very subjective. I've seen lots of creators who have gone back to Caldera, and I've seen some people being like, oh, I just really like the movement. I like how fast Warzone 1 is. And then I've seen other people being like, oh, it's just reminded me that, like, the movement in Warzone 1's actually quite annoying, and the gunfights feel a bit more chaotic sometimes. And, you've got, like, the ridiculous long-range assault rifles and LMGs that you can shoot people from across the map with and stuff like that. There's been lots of things I don't like. And, it's like, it doesn't look as good and stuff like that, which I care about, but I know not everyone does. I genuinely think Warzone 2 is more fun than Warzone 1. You believe Plunder's coming back to Season 3? Yeah, I think so. Another map might be coming in Season 3 Reloaded. Maybe, but the fact that they've said, like, one new 6v6 map makes me think, like, maybe we're going to get, like, a remake in Season 3 Reloaded. It seems weird that we haven't had High Rise or Terminal yet. Like, that seems very, very strange. Or Afghan. Now all of these maps are in the Warzone 2 map now. It just seems like that would make sense. Isn't it a bit of a campaign map? Is it High Lord Tower? I didn't notice. So what, that lighthouse? Which one would it be? The Spanish map? It didn't look like the Spanish map to me. Because the Spanish map, was that a lighthouse? Where you go through the wind farm. I can't remember. The last place you go to, is the last place a lighthouse? It might be. Maybe you're right there. It didn't look like it to me, but I could easily be wrong. I haven't played the campaign for quite a long while because I did not like it. I played through it like 3 times for the sake of making content, and I did not like it. You'd like to see different daytimes each season? Yeah, I'd like to see daytimes. I think it's to do with player visibility from what I've heard, though. It's like they want people to, like, all the skins to be visible all the time, and that makes sometimes the day quite hard because it changes all the colors, obviously. Refreshed Ricochet anti-cheat. I'm pretty sure Ricochet is constantly being refreshed all the time. I think they just do a thing with the anti-cheat, which makes a lot of sense, that they don't ban anyone for a while, for like a couple of weeks. And then the cheaters, get more confident and they get more widespread and more people get them. And then they do a big ban wave. Because if they do a ban wave every time a new cheat comes out, then it's easier for the cheat makers to work out what it was that triggered the ban wave and what triggered people getting banned. Whereas if you keep logging people and then 2 weeks later you ban everyone at one go, it's very, very hard for people to tell what got them banned, like what caused the ban. That's why they do it in waves rather than doing it as they go so quickly, I think. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. Solo plea, large backpack in black. No, I like the idea that large backpack makes you easier to see. I think that's good fun. Although you should be able to drop the backpacks for sure. Gameplay-wise, you're intrigued by one-shot snipers coming back, but hope they speed up mantling, dolphin dive recovery, and slide animations to help counter one-shot sniper potential. Oh, I don't want that kind of crazy movement again, a crazy fast movement. I'm not a big fan of that. Not a big fan. The string traps on stairs would be cool if you could place them as a player. That would be cool. I'd like that. That's a good idea. I haven't heard anyone say that, actually, Vinyl. Vinyl Fresh said, string traps on stairs would be cool if you could place them as a player. That's a really cool idea. I'd like that a lot. Ranked is likely Season 4. That's at least that's ranked sounded likely for Season 4 based on what they said in Season 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've moved it up, and that's why they haven't been talking for a while. Sorry, just trying to read through everything quickly. Quality of life updates with UI, buy station UI functionality, and being able to see what gear your teammates have, like the end of Warzone 1. Yeah, they need to put all of that stuff back in. It was so cool in Warzone 1 where you could see all of that stuff, like, do your teammates have a gas mask? Do they have a kill streak? Do they have, like, blah, blah, blah? All of that stuff was super useful. And the thing that told you how much your entire squad had in terms of cash, even if that's just in the like, score menu, that would still be super useful. Warzone 2 is in the top 2 most played free games on Xbox, so it's the second most played game on Xbox, I guess. Warzone 1 isn't even in the top 49. Yeah, that makes sense. People aren't going back to Caldera as much as people say they are. It's one of those things. It always happens. It's like when what game was it that came out at the same time as the Modern Warfare Call of Duty 4 remaster, the original Modern Warfare remaster? Was that Black Ops 4? Something came out at the same time. Like Modern Warfare 4, like the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the remaster of that, the multiplayer remaster, came out at the same time as like a proper Call of Duty game, like a proper new one. And I remember so many people on the internet were like, everyone's just going to play Call of Duty 4. These new Call of Duties are trash. We hate them. And like the entire community is just going to be playing that. Then it came out and it barely even ranked on Twitch. It was like never on the top selling, not top played games and stuff like that. It was just like it had such a tiny community because most people did what I did, played it once and were like, oh, this isn't actually that much fun anymore. I much prefer the new one. And then just went back to playing the new one. It just, yeah, it's just like, it's very easy for people to say one thing and then do something else. What happened to that thing? Wasn't there a thing on April 3rd where people said that they were boycotting Warzone? Wasn't that a thing? There was a big sort of thing I read about on a couple of news sites where people said on April 3rd they're going to boycott the game. They're not going to play it at all anymore. And it's like looking at Steam charts, it's like exactly the same as every other day. There were more people playing yesterday than there are today. So that boycott had precisely no effect. Like if you compare it to, right, if I do it, so 1 month, and then April 3rd, let's go to like the sort of peak time or so like the evening, 79,000 people. And then a week before that, so that was Monday. A week before that was Monday, March 27th, 87,000 people. So there's about 7,000 people difference on Steam, let alone everywhere else. People didn't boycott it, is what I'm saying, basically. Anyway. So that's most downloaded, most played is Fortnite, and second is Modern Warfare 2 in general. Yeah. Which is pretty crazy. Why doesn't your on-screen chat match the YouTube chat? Yeah, for some reason the on-screen chat froze at some point. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm very sorry about that. I can refresh it. There we go. It's still not caught up, I don't think. For whatever reason, it's not like keeping up with where actual chat is. But such is life. It's like slowly coming through, but just not keeping up as fast. It's just Stream Elements being a bit slow. Why So Salty said, wonder how many players have just got the free download that will alter the results, as I don't have the full game and don't have access to multiplayer and ranked, so I can only wish for Warzone 2, DMZ, etc. I don't know. Affa said campers aren't really a problem. The problem's always been Ghost. Ghost should only work if you want to move. Yeah, 100%. And they changed that, I think, to work like that in Warzone 1. That's one thing that I do think Warzone 2 could have kept up with, was like a lot of those little, like, small balance changes they did for Warzone 1 ended up being good and like could have been followed through in Warzone 2, like Ghost only working when you're moving, like being able to see how much money your entire team has and what items they have and stuff like that. All of that stuff, like, it seems weird that some of that didn't cross over into Warzone 2. I can kind of imagine why, because, like, they're obviously being developed. It's not like they made Warzone 2 just after all of those changes came to Warzone 1. They're making Warzone 2 parallel to Warzone 1 being, like, the live service side of it. So it was, like, a lot of that stuff would have been finished in Warzone 2 before they made those changes in Warzone 1. And, you know, it might have been more complicated to put them in Warzone 2 or whatever. It's very strange. Contest Nerds got kicked from a DMZ match last Friday. One team was mass reporting you for doing a standard play. Oh, weird. I don't think I have been kicked in it, but I've never been kicked by what I thought was player reporting. I've been kicked by, like, when I've just been in the middle of nowhere, not doing anything, not killing any players. It's super weird. Affas said, I'm a controller on PC player, but a lot of console players struggle to see the difference between aimbot and flick shot. Oh yeah, false reporting of cheats is crazy. Like, the number of people who, like, when I'm watching streamers even, the number of times they accuse someone of cheating, and it's like, if you go back and watch it, it's like, it didn't seem like cheating. It's just that I think a lot of people make assumptions, because it's easier to think that someone was cheating when they killed them, rather than, like, maybe that person's teammates pinged you, or maybe they had a UAV up, or maybe they heard you, or maybe, you know, they got lucky with a couple of shots. It's definitely like, and the kill cams everyone knows are bugged anyway, like they don't work properly. So it's like, it's really hard to tell if someone's cheating. Sometimes it's super obvious. I only really count it as cheating if it's like really obvious that someone was cheating. But yeah, I don't know. Salty said, Division's stale and full of Cronus lag cheats, so people are jumping to other games. PvP is just out of control with cheats. I did not know that. That's crazy. Dassi said, as a boomer, my main issue with gaming industry is that companies are willing to rush a release even when it's clearly not ready. I don't think that's true. I think it happens more in Call of Duty maybe because they have this like annual release schedule, so stuff gets like released even if it's maybe not ready. But you just have to look at how many games get delayed and how many games get pushed back all the time. They're like, generally, if they can afford it, they will push games back. But at some point, they need to make money. You can't keep pushing a game back when it's not going to make you more money. Like, if you have 400 people working in your studio, which is, a large studio, but for some of these AAA games, that's kind of the reality. And then you think the average wage of those people is like, what, £50,000? Because some people will be earning a lot more and some people will be earning a lot less. But say it's average £50,000. You've now got, how much money is that? 400 times 50, 1, 2, 3. That means for every year you delay a game, that's another £20 million. It's delays are insanely expensive to a company. And you think like a lot of games, the majority of games are only going to sell a few million copies. Delaying a game is like super risky and unlikely to really make lots of more sales. It happens sometimes, sometimes games get delayed and it probably works out incredibly well for them. But I would say a lot of the time I can kind of understand why they try to get a game out rather than delaying it for too long. And you've also got the problem that like a lot of games, like live servicey type games, the more you delay them, because you want them to be bug free and stuff like that, the more the wider gaming community's tastes change and new games come out that might make your game look bad or dated in some way. So by the time you finally release it, what you did isn't exciting or new anymore. And I think that's a big problem. Imagine how many Unreal 5 engine games there are that are designed around just looking pretty in Unreal 5 that have been delayed. And now if they're not one of the first Unreal 5 engine games, because Redfall and stuff like that's coming out, it's going to make them look bad. Like they're not going to have their like unique selling point that they were a good looking Unreal 5 game anymore. Anyway, Codstar said, maybe a hard question for you, so no need to answer. So I've played with a few friends of friends who are blatantly sus. Have I ever played with a streamer who I think is sus? No, not in terms of cheating, never. I've played with people that I'm pretty sure are VPNing, like trying to get into lobbies with easier players. Like that's definitely a thing. That's definitely something that people do. And I think they do it for a variety of reasons, but there's definitely some people who, especially in Warzone 1, I don't know how effective it is in Warzone 2, but in Warzone 1, like you could have, the COD stats COD tracker and stuff like that to see how hard your lobbies were. I would be getting quite hard lobbies, and then I would go play with people who had kill deaths that were literally like 2 or 3, 4 times higher than mine, and I would be getting much, much easier lobbies all the time I was playing with them. And then I could leave their games and go back to my own games in the same session, so it's not to do with time of day and stuff, and then go back to my hard games immediately. There's definitely people who, when they're hosting, insist on hosting so they can use VPN and so they can do that. That's definitely a thing. But I've never, ever played with someone I thought was cheating. Like, other than, randoms on my team, maybe in Warzone 1 a couple of times. But I've never played with a streamer that I thought was cheating, ever. If you play with, say, a friend of a friend and they were cheating and they pull you into cheat toxic lobbies, would you still play with them even if you didn't have problems with cheating? If I was playing with someone and they were cheating and they were on my team, I wouldn't play with them. 100%. I'd report them and leave. If they were VPNing, then I'm like, oh, it's not worth the fuss. Like, if I get to play with someone and then I find out, like, they're VPNing to get easier lobbies, I probably won't want to play with them lots. But, like, I'm not just going to, like, immediately back out the session and be like, no, we can't do this. But cheating would be a different thing. I would 100% leave. Anyway, we've spent the entire hour and I haven't talked about any of the other things, so I'm going to talk about them very, very quickly. If you just wanted to watch Call of Duty stuff and you're done now, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It helps out a bunch. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about live service games. We're going to be having a guest star with us. Part Welsh, also known as Freeman, is going to be on the podcast tomorrow. So you'll have 2 voices talking rather than just mine, which will be very exciting. I'm quite looking forward to that. But yeah, so the other things I want to talk about today. First of all, Dungeons & Dragons movie. I finally got around to seeing the Dungeons & Dragons movie last night. It cost me for 2 tickets to go see Dungeons & Dragons at an IMAX screen. Not like the BFI IMAX, not like the big proper IMAX where it's like an insanely huge screen and amazing quality and everything. Just the IMAX screen in my local Odeon. 2 tickets on a Monday night. How much do you think it cost? It was £38. £38 for 2 tickets to go see a film. That was insane. £19 each. And we went in there. This was the same place we went to where on Sunday we went to, and we walked out because we were in a tiny screen. The sound quality was awful. Like the background sound was way too loud. The picture was fuzzy and dark. The seats were all torn up. So then we went back because there's only 2 big cinemas in Norwich. So we went back to thinking, I know, I'll go to the IMAX screening, then it's going to have good picture, good sound and everything, then I can enjoy the movie. And I had a voucher for it, which is why we went back to the same place. Went back there, £38 for 2 tickets, which was utterly insane. And then we sat in the cinema, barely anyone in there, like 10 people in there maybe. Seats were still, like all of these seats were torn up as well, like all of the upholstery and stuff was all messed up, which sucked. The film started like 20 minutes late. We sat there for 20 minutes with nothing on the screen. It was just a blank screen and the lights turned down. I went out and spoke to someone after 10 minutes and was like, hey, the film should have started 10 minutes ago and there's nothing. And she was like, okay, like I'll speak to someone. And then they didn't even look at me when she said it and just wandered off, which I thought was rude. Anyway, 10 minutes later, it finally starts. They still played all of the adverts. They still played half an hour's worth of adverts and trailers, and like so many trailers. There's like 10 minutes of trailers that's literally just, you should come see films in IMAX. IMAX is amazing. And it's like, we know we're in the IMAX cinema. Like we're literally we've paid £19 each to sit here. Now you're advertising us to us that we should come here. Like this is ridiculous. And it's just annoying. So the film started 20 minutes late and it was already meant to start 8 o'clock. So quite late really for like a 2-hour, 10-minute film. And then we had half an hour trailer. So the film started 50 minutes after it was meant to start, like after the time that was advertised, which is insane, like just so bad. Anyway, then the film started. The sound was still not perfect. Like it was much more in balance. Like you could hear the front channels much better, but it's still like a little bit fuzzy and distorted. Like they've just turned the speakers up to make them loud because it's IMAX, but they haven't actually got high quality speakers that can cope with that. So everything's like the tiniest bit fuzzy and distorted. That was really annoying. Anyway, the picture at least was, fairly good. It wasn't super sharp or anything, but it was like bright, which was nice. But anyway, the film itself, I loved. I thought Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, awesome film. If you've got a good cinema near you, I would strongly suggest you go see it. It's visually very impressive, but I wouldn't say it's like one of those films that you have to see it in a cinema. I think we could have watched it, when it comes to streaming services and you can pay for it on YouTube or whatever. I definitely think that would have been okay to watch it then. Because it's mostly like, it's a funny film. And one thing I thought it did super well, I'm not going to spoil anything about the film at all, but one thing I thought the film did really well, as a contrast to John Wick 4, which I really didn't like last week, one thing I thought it did really well was the action sequences. Weren't that long. They were like, a couple of minutes long for each one at the most. They were pretty short. And every beat of the action sequences was something interesting happening. It wasn't the same thing happening again and again and again. Instead, it was like loads of little jokes, loads of little references to things, loads of like kind of interesting, like, oh, that's how they managed to do that. Just like the choreography was like cut down the action sequences. So you never had, people getting punched in the face or people getting hit with a thing over and over again. Instead, maybe you'd have like 10 seconds of something like that, and then something interesting would happen. Then maybe 10 seconds of like fighting and moving and stuff like that, and then something interesting would happen. Like there's always just interesting, memorable bits of fights. I could compare it to, I think a good comparison would be the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. If you think about the fights in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, there's always some interesting little joke or some interesting little twist, something you haven't seen before, constantly throughout all of the action sequences. And I think that's what this did quite well, where it's like, there wasn't that much action, there wasn't too much action, but when there was, it was always something interesting happening. And they have a lot more freedom to do that because, magic and stuff like that. But I thought that was very, very cool. As opposed to John Wick, where it's like, that was a 3-hour film. The action sequences would go on for literally like 10, 15 minutes at a time. And most of the action sequences were like shooting, hiding in cover, shooting, and like just that. And there was maybe, I would say, in all of John Wick 4, I can think of maybe like 2 or 3 interesting things that happened in all of those action sequences altogether. Whereas in Dungeons & Dragons, it was like every single fight scene had 2 or 3 interesting things happening. And yeah, I thought it was funny. I thought the acting was good. It's definitely like, it's not super serious. The story is, I would say, interesting, and it's not like super predictable, but it's also not, it's not the most groundbreaking thing ever. It's not going to win Oscars or anything like that. But it's a super entertaining, family appropriate film that was very, very funny. I liked it a lot. I hope they make more films in that series, which I don't often say, but I hope it does become a series of films. Like, I think like I was listening to a podcast where they talked about maybe they could do something where like there's different groups. So they could maybe have like this one is about this group. And you know how you have obviously different Dungeons and Dragons groups playing the game. Have like then the next one be in the same world, but a different group on their own adventure and stuff. Another thing that I really liked about it was that like the stakes were appropriate. The stakes weren't like, you know, it didn't have to suddenly turn into some huge fantasy epic. It was like a smaller scale story, and that was cool. That was awesome. So heartily recommend Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Thought it was a great film. Glad I went to see it. Going to see Mario on Thursday, probably at the other cinema in town. Does tickets for £5.40 or something like that, £5.80. So probably going to go to that cinema, even though I know it's a bad screen and bad sound. At least I'm not, you know, if I go to Odeon, I'm paying literally like nearly 4 times that much money to also have bad quality, bad screen, bad sound. So not going to do that anymore. The last thing I wanted to talk about, the very last thing, was the Saudi Arabian Gaming Fund. Not going to spend ages on this, but this is kind of an interesting news story that I thought might be worth something that some people haven't heard about, but might want to look into. So in Saudi Arabia, they're doing a lot of projects at the moment where the government, you know, the insanely rich government from all of that oil money or whatever, is investing a lot of money. So they're building a Six Flags park that's heavily invested in by the government, Six Flags Qiddiya, where they're building this insane roller coaster that's meant to be like have a 600-foot drop or something. Bear in mind, the tallest roller coaster in the world is like 400 and something feet. This is going to be insanely huge. And they're actually building it. They're working on it. They're also building like that new city that's like the line that looks like a terrible design. Lots of weird vanity projects, but at least for people that are interested in crazy developments, it's kind of interesting. Obviously, Saudi Arabia can't avoid talking about and about saying lots of human rights abuses by the government, terrible group of people in charge of that country. So probably not something that a lot of people would want to support. But they're doing something interesting where they're apparently investing $38 billion to establish a local gaming industry. So apparently the Saudi government own 8.26% of Nintendo, which is super interesting. I didn't know about that at all. And they also hold shares in EA and Take-Two. But now they want to try and make sort of gaming development studios in Saudi Arabia, and they're investing an insane amount of money. Apparently, one of the things that's most interesting about that, I mean, lots of countries do this. Lots of countries try to give companies subsidies to open up gaming studios. You know, Singapore did it recently with Ubisoft, and that's why Skull and Bones hasn't been cancelled, because the Singapore government's put so much money into it. Like, lots of countries do this, and it's always quite difficult because it's like lots of game developers from those countries have already moved to other countries where there are studios. You know, lots of people will have moved to America or moved to Europe because there's gaming studios there. There's jobs there. So now they've got to try and get some of those people back or encourage other people to move into the country, you know, people who are highly skilled in order to make these. That's super difficult. Often what happens when they build studios in a country which doesn't have any big gaming studios is you end up with a load of people who don't have any experience. And that obviously leads to substandard games, which means the companies don't make any money, they don't make a name for themselves, then they have even more trouble hiring people. It's a real problem. But supposedly, one of the things that they're talking about doing is investing a bunch of money in the games industry and then spending £12 billion, pounds, not dollars, to acquire a publisher. So apparently they've been talking about doing this since September, but they're looking at trying to buy a publisher. So imagine if like Saudi Arabia bought Ubisoft or bought, you know, Take-Two or bought whoever, bought EA or something like that. It's a very, very strange situation. But Eurogamer have an interesting article on it that was written by Liv Nagan. It's well worth having a look at. I'll put the link in chat. But yeah, kind of an interesting situation. Also, don't spoil stuff about films. Someone trying to say about things that happen in films. I'm just deleting that comment. Don't spoil stuff in films, especially films that only came out like a couple of weeks ago. Don't do that. But yeah, anyway, kind of interesting they're doing that, I thought. It's just something to keep an eye on. Like, is one of the big publishers going to get bought by Saudi Arabia, and then suddenly a load of people have to make a decision about whether they want to work for a Saudi Arabian firm or not, or will have to move to Saudi Arabia to go work in game development? Very, very strange. Very strange situation. Anyway, that's everything for me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We keep on overrunning. I need to get better at keeping to time. You know, I need to be like 20 minutes talking about the main story, 20 minutes talking about this story and stuff like that would be much better. But like I said, we're going to have a guest tomorrow. Super excited about that. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Thank you to everyone that's liked the stream as well. And I will see you all at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So thank you very much and goodbye.